Hi, welcome to another episode of Foxy Little Nuggets, where the umbrella of news meets the strong gust of wind of reality and leaves you standing there in the rain holding a metal stick. Labour has scored rather an own goal because some of Britain's greatest sporting names are warning Labour not to mess with PE lessons in Britain. Sharon Davis, Tanny Gray-Thompson, Daley Thompson, others have written to Lucy Powell, who is the Education Secretary, and told her to not do what she plans over PE. They've got this new sports premium, they're calling it, with partnerships, and it all looks a bit dodgy. They've said they're critical because their calculations show it's a 22% reduction in funding available to schools. And they say that the results are obvious with fewer coaches, fewer activities, so forth. It means fewer children rising to world-class eminence in sport. The government insists the figures actually are an increase in spending, but Davis and all the others aren't exactly convinced. And there is this wonderful British quality to this, isn't there? The country spends years worrying children becoming less active. And so somebody says, sport is the answer. OK, they said. So what are we going to do with it? Well, we'll cut the PE budget. Terrific. We're going to talk now about, this is a cracker. And irony. Art Laffer. The American economist Art Laffer, the man who invented the Laffer curve, has delivered some rather unfortunate advice to Andy Burnham, and he said cut taxes. Laffer advises, or was an advisor at least, to Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher. Says that Britain is being strangled by taxation and regulation, and that we as a nation have gone over the top on the Laffer curve. Cut the top rate, he says, from 45% to 35% and see a remarkable amount of growth. He also says abolish inheritance tax, abolish stamp duty, cut other taxes. Basically, simplify the tax system and you will raise far more tax. And if you can get rid of that army of accountants in HMRC because the system's simpler, you'll save a lot of spending with it. Laffer says that Britain has enormous potential, but it is being strangled by regulation and by taxes. Unfortunately, of course, for Laffer, we've got a Labour Party, and that is indeed itself led by an ultra-lefty. So I don't expect taxes to be cut at all. Maybe start with a smaller ambition. Say, let's go 3 days without inventing a new tax, just to let people, catch up. Maybe. We've got a third story. Net zero, is meeting the electricity bill, and the electricity bill is winning, it seems. Maybe. Because this is another example of governments discovering maths after it's all far, far too late. Labour's new Energy Secretary, Miatta Fahnbulleh, the Miliband Mark II, but only madder and badder, appears to have noticed something extraordinary. And that is that net zero costs a lot of money and people are objecting to it. Shock, horror. Look, people across the country going at this. Net zero has to be affordable, she says. But of course it can't. It just doesn't work. But somebody's handed her a calculator. She's thumbed at it a few times and gone, oh dear. So Fahnbulleh says now that Labour will not strictly and rigidly stick to Ed Miliband's ambition of almost eliminating fossil fuels from Britain's electricity supply by 2030. 4 years. Woman's a mental case. She has suggested that the clean power deadline could slip by a year or two if that makes the transition cheaper. She really got no idea whatsoever. None of them have they? They're all lunatics. They're absolute lunatics. It's almost as though they say, well, if I say something will happen, it'll happen. No, that's not how it works. Ministers are also reviewing the electric car deadline. The existing rules require 80% of new cars to be net zero emission by 2030. Again, you can't have net zero cars. It's impossible. The government insists net zero remains the destination. Then the government is filled with idiots. Oh, wait. It is. So, it means that this government is actually pushing towards something that's impossible and that will bankrupt Britain on the way and make absolutely zero difference to the world anyway. So you have to ask, why are they really doing it? Is it just to destroy Britain? I think the answer is yes. So this great green revolution has encountered its most dangerous opponent yet. Not Nigel Farage, not Donald Trump, but the gas bill. And also, of course, the fact that when the lights go out and there's no gas to heat your homes, people might get a bit uppity. And the last thing this government wants is 70 million uppity people. But that's where they're going. Now we want to talk about the Niblet. It's such a great name for this woman, isn't it? It's also a bit mashy. That's a niblik. Anyway, what's it? Corn. That's quite indigestible, isn't it? But we're talking here about Samantha Niblet, the Minister for Naughtiness. Samantha is back. Niblet has already become associated with her campaign of a summer of sex at Westminster. She previously called for Parliament to host an exhibition of dildos, vibrators and other sex toys, which is quite apt because there's 650... I wasn't going to say that word. Potholes, housing and national debt weren't keeping MPs busy enough. Now she's entered the row over single-sex spaces. Following new guidance reflecting the Supreme Court's decision that the sex under the Equality Act means biological sex, Niblet has strongly criticised this. And she said it's restricting trans women, or men, as we like to call them, from using female-only facilities, which is, of course, correct. Female-only facilities are for females. Mentally ill men need to go to the mentally ill men toilets, or the gents, as we call it. She chose to make her intervention while reclining on a sun lounger in enormous sunglasses, wearing a bikini and sipping a pina colada, which I suppose is one novel way of presenting yourself in a statesman-like manner. There is something rather magnificent about modern politics, isn't there? Anyway, Churchill had the war rooms, Thatcher had the dispatch box, Samantha Niblet has a pina colada and is half getting her boobs out. She complained that future generations may look back at 2026 and wonder how many politicians became quite so rubbish. Yep. We do that now, don't we? We're sitting there looking at them and going, why are they quite so rubbish? I don't think she means it the same way me mean it. Anyway, we've got an and finally, and it's a nice and finally. It goes to show how if you campaign hard and get your community together, shit happens. Because we're talking about Plumpton in East Sussex, where the residents are campaigning to save their 175-year-old village pub, the Fountain Inn, by bringing it into community ownership. 300,000 has reportedly been pledged towards buying it, and the campaign has even received support from Queen Camilla. Still seems odd calling her the Queen, because for me the Queen is the Queen. Camilla is a queen, but not the Queen, just a queen. Anyway, apparently, Camilla, spent part of her childhood in Plumpton, or Camberwick Green, or Chigley, something like that. The villagers argue that the fountain is more than somewhere to get a pint. It's where people meet, friendships are made, loneliness is reduced, and village life actually happens. There's something rather lovely about that, isn't there? While Westminster discusses grand strategies involving billions of pounds, hundreds of departments, and enough consultants to fill Wembley, a bunch of ordinary people in a small village decide that's the problem, let's fix it. They buy the pub. No 5-year strategy, no task force, no Minister for Community Beverage Resilience, just people putting their hands in their pockets and buying it. Well done to them. Keep it open. Thank you very much. You've been marvellous. I've enjoyed this one. Take care. Speak to you soon. Bye.